Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Richard Moglen, and welcome to the second market outlook for December 2019. As a part of this video, I always go through technical analysis of the indexes as well as read through the most current IBD big picture article, and I also check out wishingwealthblog.com. And then after all that, I'll go through how my watch list performed over the past week and look at big gainers, big losers, and what kind of happened overall over the past trading week. So before we actually go through how the indexes did, let's go through and read the current big picture article from IBD. So overall, they talk about how the week had a strong close. However, at the beginning of the week, we did have those two different distribution days on the NASDAQ and S&P, which raised the number of total distribution days to 5 on the NASDAQ and 4 on the S&P 500. Those two distribution days are most likely due to pessimism surrounding the U.S.-China trade deal. But overall, at the end of the week, as I said, the major indexes gained back everything that we lost, mostly due to the U.S. economy job report, which was very positive. The article also highlights two different stocks, CMG, Chipotle, and Progeny, which was actually on my watch list from this past week. So it's always nice to have one of your picks from the past week featured in IBD. It's kind of just cementing that it was a good stock to be looking at. And on this past Friday, Progeny had a almost 10% surge, which was fantastic. So definitely one to watch as it just broke out from its IPO base on this past Friday. And this was a result of the previous day. They had earnings report, which was very positive with better than expected Q3 results. So overall, from the IBD picture, we've got a confirmed uptrend being the current outlook from IBD. You've got 5 distribution days on the NASDAQ and 4 on the S&P 500. And Friday's action was stocks power higher. So overall, good things from IBD. And looking at wishingwealthblog.com, you can see that the current GMI signal is still green since October 16. We've been in a very good run on this rise after the small correction. And the current GMI score is a 5 out of 6, and the GMI 2 is a 3 out of 8. Dr. Wish also highlights Doku, which was a successful green line breakout that rose sharply on this past Friday after earnings the previous day. Personally, I didn't feel like I had enough of a cushion to hold through earnings, and I actually sold my shares a couple days before when it dropped on large volume. And before we actually move into TC2000, I want to say thank you for everybody watching this video. I recently just passed 500 subscribers, which is awesome. This was one of my goals for this year, so it's great to get that knocked out of the way a little bit early. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's completely free, and all I'm trying to do here is kind of add value and kind of document my learning process and share tips that I've learned along the way. So if you want to join this community, I strongly encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below, and also like this video if you find my analysis helpful. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's go and jump into TC2000 and do some analysis of the indexes for ourselves. So remember, we're not predicting what the QQQ, the SPY is going to do. All that we're doing is analyzing what the current trend is. So we're looking at the short-term trend and also the longer trend. And you can see that overall this year, the longer trend has been a clear uptrend. And short-term, you can see we're in a daily red, white, blue pattern here, which is a very strong pattern to be in. If you want to know exactly how to make this kind of graph for yourself, it's very easy. All it is a couple different exponential moving averages, and I have a complete video on that, which I'll be linking below in the description, and it should be popping up right now as we speak. So I think the Guppy charts is a really easy way to analyze the trend. If you don't want to mess with looking at the 30-day moving average and where it is relative to this, you can quickly switch to this page, and if red is above the blue with some white space, you're in good shape and the market is in an uptrend. And this is actually the QLD, which is a leverage ETF of the QQQ, my bad. but the trend should be exactly the same for the QQQ since the QLD is just a derivative. So now going to a clean chart, which is where I have all my moving averages and indicators, you can see that we had those 2 distribution days early this week, but it recovered nicely, and we actually had a green dot bounce on this last Friday, which is a positive sign for the market. And overall, you can see we also bounced off the 30-day moving average here, which is a good sign. And on the weekly, you can see that we're well into a stage 2 with the current price above the 10-week, which is also above the 30-week, which is the critical moving average for stage analysis. So to put it simply, we're in a short-term uptrend and a longer-term uptrend as well. And now looking at the SPY, you can see the same sort of weekly pattern with the price above the 10-week moving average, which is above the 30. And on the daily chart as well, you can see the same bounce off the 30-day moving average and also the green dots on this last bar as well. And actually, one last thing I want to highlight about the QQQ is you can see that since the past correction, it's been outperforming the SPY by a large amount. And this is why this is my chosen index of choice, because simply the NASDAQ 100 has more of those tech names that are more growth stocks than the SPY, which is a lot more diversified into 500 companies. And I just think the QQQ is a better long-term hold. But going back to the SPY, you can see on the regular chart, it looks the same as the QQQ as we just showed. And on the daily guppy chart, you can see the same nice red, white, blue pattern and the green dot here as well. And my purple dot starting right when this most recent uptrend began. And if you don't want to use a 30-week moving average, you can go ahead and use the weekly guppy chart and see that we're in a long-term red, white, blue pattern since early February. So there's a lot of different ways to analyze the indexes. And it's really up to you to find what is easiest for you. And I'm just kind of outlaying all these different options for you. So now that we've talked about the main indexes, I want to talk about the IWM, which is the Russell 2000 index. You can see that its overall chart is a lot weaker than both the SPY and the QQQ, which is really clear from this weekly guppy chart. But you can see the past few weeks, it's been doing very well. It's been increasing steadily. And on the daily guppy, it's in a steady red, white, blue pattern, which is a good sign. And it's nice to see all the mid caps working with the major indexes as well. And just going to a normal chart, you can see it also had a green dot this past Friday and above average volume as well, which is a very positive sign. And the last ETF that I want to talk about is FFTY. Wow, I didn't spell that right. FFTY, which is the IBD 50 ETF. And you can see on this Friday, it wasn't quite as strong as the overall indexes, but still it's in this nice uptrend, clearly over this 30-day moving average. You had that same bounce pattern. And looking at the daily guppy chart, it's also in a nice red, white, blue pattern. So overall, all the indexes are showing that currently the market trend is up. So if you're a swing trader or position trader, I think this is a fine time to be investing in. And even though we're near all-time highs, I don't think that should discourage you from entering the market at this time. So now that we've talked about all the major ETFs, let's go ahead and look at my watch list from the past week, see how it performed, see the biggest winner, biggest loser, and how overall my watch list performed. So I'm going to sort by the weekly change, which is basically it takes the price from the open of the week and the end of the week and then calculates the percent difference from those two values. So our biggest winner was PGNY, which was highlighted by IBD from that article. Then we had CDLX, which did very well, and I actually have a position in the stock from when it broke out. Doku did very well on this past Friday because of that earnings report. Then we had QRVO, which did very well. And then a couple different stocks that made marginal gains. So overall, we did have more losers than winners this past week, and that's mostly because a lot of these growth stocks were hit pretty hard in those first 2 days, and although they did try to come back in the last part of the week, they didn't all quite get there. But most of them didn't actually hurt their bases that much. So they're still setting up nicely. They still have good fundamentals. So they're still worth a watch. So let's go ahead and look at PGNY at first. And let's go to a normal chart. So you can see this big breakout past this level here on huge volume. And let's go to hourly chart, and I'll show you that this all happened right around 11 a.m. And this is a huge move. I was fully invested in other stocks, so I wasn't able to take up a position in this, but it was definitely one to watch, and it's got excellent fundamentals. The chart looks very nice, and I will continue to be monitoring this one, and if it pulls back and if I'm stopped out of another position, I may enter this stock. Looking at CDLX, which I do have a position in, you can see that it's been trending upwards very nicely. It had a weak Friday, but overall it's a very good fundamental stock, and I still have a good buffer in my position. Doku, as I said before, gapped up huge on earnings, and look at this volume coming in. This is a lot of volume. You've got almost 10 million shares traded when the average 50 is only 2.25. So definitely above average interest there, which possibly indicates institutions taking positions in this stock. QRVO, you can see, has just been kind of trending higher this past week. You had a couple nice entries. You got a Bollinger Band bounce because the low of this bar was below that Bollinger Band. And look at this Bollinger Band pattern right here. You can see it expanded quite a bit because of the huge explosion upwards. But then over the past week or so, it's been getting really tight with not really that much change between the top and the bottom. And you can think of this as a spring that's completely compressed. And what this means is that when it starts going in one direction, it can really go. And we saw this from PGNY, where you've got this kind of tightening over here. CDLX also had this kind of Bollinger Band squeeze right here. They're not quite as dramatic as QRVO. So definitely one to watch, and you've still got some good entries right here with a recent green dot and Bollinger Band bounce. MHO, you can see also the same kind of tightening Bollinger Band squeeze pattern, and you can see it broke out on this day, but then on this past Friday was met with a lot of selling. So maybe not the best stock to be investing in at this moment. ATKR, you can see, jumped up well last week and is still kind of just tightening over on this right hand side. JBL, I believe, is doing pretty much the same thing, and you can see that early this week it really gapped down on this distribution day, but then it recovered nicely with a Bollinger Band bounce and a green dot as well. AMD is doing quite well after recovering from the gap down on the distribution day. And what I like about this setup right now is you had this huge increase. Let's see how much this was actually. Yeah, you've got a 45% increase almost. And now it's just kind of consolidating that move and tightening up on this right-hand side and hopefully getting ready for another leg up. SPAR, you can see, is near all-time highs. It's tightening up on this right-hand side. And it was moving well over the end of last week. So this is definitely still one to watch, and its fundamentals are very good. WCG is still really tightening down on this right hand side, and you can see the beginning of a Bollinger Band squeeze right here. So this will definitely still be on my watch list for the next week. IBP, which I do have a position in, you can see it's still forming this consolidation pattern, this Bollinger Band squeeze. You had some Bollinger Band bounces right here on these blue dots, and also a green dot as well. I have been in this stock for quite a bit, and it hasn't really been doing that much for me, but I'm still holding my shares because it hasn't really done anything to me that identifies a change in behavior towards the negative. So overall, it's in a strong uptrend. It's been doing really well this year, and hopefully it's just getting ready to move upwards once again. CRSP has been very volatile, but is also kind of consolidating and getting tighter and tighter on this right hand side. You can see volume decreasing a little bit, all things that are good when a stock is forming a kind of sideways consolidation and another base. NMIH, you can see gap down in a big way on that distribution day, which probably shook out a lot of people with stop losses, which is a good thing. And it's also a positive sign that it recovered all the way and finished higher than its open. So that's a really positive sign from NMIH, and it has excellent fundamentals, and this will definitely be on my watch list for this week. And you can see the Bollinger Band bounce the next day, and also a green dot on Friday. Aries is also forming this sideways consolidation. Really good fundamentals. I'm also just waiting for this stock to make its move. VCTR is also just kind of forming this sideways consolidation. I like these big up days on volume. I think that's a positive sign. That's a sign of institutional accumulation. LITE is also forming a sideways consolidation and really tightening up on that right hand side. And you can see it also recovered from that distribution day on 12/3 on Tuesday. AUDC is still also just kind of moving sideways with kind of an unclear direction. So I would want to see this move and bounce off this 10-day moving average. From RNG, you can see kind of a weaker chart than a lot of these others that responded well to the distribution days. It did have a Bollinger Band bounce, but then over the next couple days, it dropped as well, which isn't a positive sign. You did have a Bollinger Band bounce on this past Friday, and the fundamentals are pretty decent, so I'll probably still be watching this stock going into next week. Zyme, you can see it's still just going sideways as a lot of these stocks, but I do like this positive volume coming in, although you did have above average selling on this past Friday. But look at the run that this stock has been in. I mean, it's been outperforming the SPY since about October 9th. So a really strong performer that so far has increased about 56% in that time. So it is due for a consolidation period, which is why I'm not really worried for this gentle pullback that we're seeing right now. This isn't really a change of character from the stock. It's just kind of absorbing the distribution days that we had early last week. Riley, you can see, had a huge shakeout on this day on 11/29, but other than that, it's still just kind of been going sideways, and it lost a lot on Monday 12/2. Now looking at PLMR, you can see that it dropped down on these distribution days, but since then it's been going pretty much sideways and could be setting up for another green dot stochastic cross. Let's go ahead and look. Yeah, so the current 10-4 stochastic is at 34.43, and if the stock keeps consolidating, you would likely have another green dot entry early into next week. So I'll definitely be looking at this stock again. It's number 2 on my fundamental ranking scale with great future projected earnings. So definitely a very strong stock to be watching. MKTX is probably the ugliest looking chart from my watch list. It's really correcting on above average volume with 5 straight down days, which is not a good sign. InMode, which has been very volatile, is still kind of just absorbing this huge move that it had in October through November. So like a couple other stocks, it's due for a correction, which is why I'm not really surprised about all this selling. But on this past Friday, it had a very strong day and ended at its high of the day on above average volume. So if you like volatility, if you like IPOs, this could be one to watch, and this could be one to take up a position. So that is the market outlook for week 2 of December 2019, and also how my previous watch list did over the past trading week. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you did, please leave a like down below. And also, I want you guys to comment how your stocks did last week, and if you've got any potential symbols that you want me to analyze in my next weekly watch list, which I'll be posting tomorrow. Let me know down below. I'll be happy to give them a quick look and give my rundown on how I view their fundamentals and also technical setup. So thanks so much again, guys, for 500 subscribers. That's a huge amount of people. Honestly, that's a crazy amount, to be honest. But thank you so much for anybody who's involved in this channel. My goal is to just help develop strategy-based trading and help people kind of understand how to manage their risk, manage their portfolios, and hopefully make money and become profitable in the stock market. So thank you guys once again, and I'll see you guys in future videos.